Morning, folks. This is Sam Kofer with Exit Right Realty. I'm here with Peter Rosecrans of Radon Resolvers. How are you, Peter?
I'm good. I'm good, Sam. Thanks for having me. Happy to
Yeah,
be here.
I appreciate you coming on, man. There's a lot of information that you have that I want to be able to share to home buyers and also home sellers about this radon thing. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a fun fact or one or two.
So I guess the funnest fact is, given the fact that I do radon mitigation now, and it's really a construction kind of environmental trade.
Sure.
I used to be a bean counter back in the day. I was an accountant originally.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I can't sit still at all. This is
Right,
like,
right.
sitting still right now is a challenge for me. So I can't sit still. I love to talk to people. I love to work with my hands. I love to solve problems. And I found out about radon after one of my mom's friends passed away from lung cancer as a non-smoker.
Wow.
And that kind of started the itch for me to feel, what is this radon thing? And then a couple more years of suffering through bean counting. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm full in on this now.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. I mean, for me personally, you installed a radon remediation system in one of my sellers' homes, and I received a lot of information and education from you, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to provide information and education to the public. Let me ask you, what is radon gas for those who don't know, and how does it affect homeowners?
Okay. So I'm going to keep it really simple.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the people listening, I don't want to be too scientific
Sure.
and, take anyone back to chemistry class, but so radon it's a radioactive gas that comes from the soil.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, there's uranium in the soil all over the world,
Okay.
on every continent. And in our area, we have uranium in the soil, just like you have quartz or granite or, shale, whatever.
Sure.
And most natural stone has some level of uranium in it. And as the uranium decays, it's called radioactive decay. One of those decays is radon gas. And radon gas will come up into your house, whether it's through a crawl space, through the slab on the basement floor, the concrete,
Mm-hmm.
or different ways it can come in. It can come in
Sure.
through holes in the wall, whatever. You breathe it in, and it can screw up the DNA in your lungs. If it's like attached, it can attach to a piece of dust. It can attach to nothing. It can just be floating. If you breathe it in, and then that radon gas then decays, that can cause serious damage to the DNA in your lungs and can start, the growth of cancer over time if you're exposed to it long enough, just like smoking.
And I remember you telling me that, if someone passes away from lung cancer and they were not a smoker, it's a high probability that they suffered from radon poisoning. Is that right?
Well, it's lung cancer from radon. It's called just
Okay.
exposure to radon over time. So radon's actually the second leading cause of lung cancer, period. And it's
Wow.
not even close. Obviously, smoking would be number one.
Sure.
Radon kills, the number is not exact, but it's somewhere between 21,000 and 40,000 people a year.
Wow.
And it's pretty serious stuff. And so everybody is familiar with asbestos.
Right. Right.
This isn't an exact number either, but asbestos kills roughly between 2,000 and 4,000 people a year.
Okay.
Lung cancer deaths from asbestos, and everyone, asbestos bought the Orioles. Okay.
Yeah.
So everyone knows what asbestos is,
Right.
and almost nobody knows what radon is.
Right.
And you can't smell it, you can't see it, you can't taste it. It's a completely invisible gas, and it can cause serious health damage to you. You can get lung cancer from just living in your house, especially if you're sleeping in your basement, or if you have, kids that are in the basement all the time playing video games. It's really serious, and it's not a big deal to get it fixed.
Right. And that's definitely what we want to get into. You said that you were a bean counter before. How exactly did you get into radon gas? Give us that story again.
So, basically, I got to the point where I couldn't sit still anymore at a desk, and I couldn't see myself doing it any longer. And I've always had, I've always been good at working with my hands and kind of had an
Sure.
entrepreneurial spirit. And I felt trapped sitting in my desk job all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went through a couple ideas, and I ended up sticking with Radon because that was the one that kind of originally piqued my interest in getting out of the bean counting world. And um, I love it. I mean, when I was when I was an accountant, I was a forensic accountant. So most of what I was doing was like picking apart tax shelters, figuring out how somebody was committing fraud,
Okay.
really problem solving stuff.
Sure.
And with Radon, every house is totally unique, even
Right.
the same house model right next door to the other one in one of these cookie cutter neighborhoods we see everywhere nowadays. And so like the solution we need to do for every house compete totally different.
Sure.
And so, you'll get a house that has 3 crawl spaces and 2 basements, and then you got to, come up with some crazy solution to get it fixed. And it's a real challenge, and it's fun for me to solve that problem every time.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I like the fact that, you mentioned it as you're a problem solver. That's kind of how I look at real estate for myself. Home buyers, they might have a real estate problem looking for a home. I'm here to solve it. Or sellers might have a problem with trying to sell their home.
Yep.
I'm here to help them sell it, but
Right. Yeah. And I saw you do that nicely.
thanks, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You work in the the DC metro region, and I obviously sell in that area as well. In what areas have you seen greater concentration?
So I mostly just work in Maryland. And
Okay,
so I can't, I can tell you where it is in Virginia. It's
sure.
almost anywhere in Northern Virginia, you're going to have it, but
Wow.
I don't work there.
Okay,
But in Maryland, from where I work, like I said earlier, uranium's on every continent in the world.
sure,
And
sure.
so I want to say more than half of Maryland is in what the EPA calls Zone 1 for radon.
Okay,
And you can quickly find like a map online if you look up like radon EPA zones or something like
sure,
that.
sure.
And it'll show you by county in different colors what zone they're in. But I'm pretty sure more than half of Maryland is Zone 1. Um, like Montgomery County is Zone 1, which means that the average indoor level
Mm-hmm.
for a house was over 4 picocuries. And 4 picocuries is the level at which the EPA considers radon to be dangerous.
Dangerous, right?
Although, it's kind of an arbitrary number that they came up with a long time ago
Mm-hmm.
because, the studies have shown that basically 1 picocurie is the equivalent of smoking 2 cigarettes a day.
Wow,
So,
wow.
so if you're buying a house and it's 3.9 picocuries,
Right.
then,
It's
you could
like you're
still have some
smoking.
serious risk.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
back to the question, as far as areas, me personally, the highest house I've seen in Maryland was 167 picocuries, and it was about a mile from where I live. Uh,
Wow,
and my
wow.
house was like 2.1 when I bought
Mm-hmm.
it, so mine
Mm-hmm.
wasn't crazy. I still put a system in anyways, because
Right,
that's my thing. But
right, right, right.
um, you know, Carroll County, Upper Montgomery County, most of Howard County,
Mm-hmm.
uh, most of Montgomery County. So Upper County, as you get closer to Carroll County, that's where the numbers really get crazy. And
Okay,
actually, down in Southern Maryland and PG County and Arundel, there are a lot of hot spots where
sure.
one neighborhood might be totally low and fine, and then you get to the next one, and every house is in the 40s.
Mm, mm.
Um, the soil is really different over there. A lot of it
Wow,
has to do with the geology of, under
of those
what's going on
areas.
under the ground. But
Yeah.
like, to give an example, yesterday I did a house. I went to look at a house in Clinton,
Mm-hmm.
that was 8 picocuries, and it was, an 8-year-old house. And
Wow.
then I went to another house in Owings Mills, Maryland, that was 12 picocuries. I went to another one in, Bethesda, that was 5. And then one other one I was going to use as an example. But the real trick is, like, let's say that house that was 165 picocuries.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the number was in the house next door?
You said 105?
165. What do you
Oh,
think it was next
165.
door?
I'd say 180.
No, it was 7.
What?
Yeah. So it's totally unique, and it could be that maybe you're the only house in the neighborhood, or you're the lucky house that doesn't have an issue. But it's
Wow.
completely dependent on where that uranium is in the
It's
soil.
concentrated.
So
Yeah.
if it's under your house, it could be crazy high, or just over the limit, or even just
Right.
below the limit.
Wow.
But that's why it's so important for people to find out and test. And so, like, if you're the homeowner, test and find out why you live there. And for
Yeah.
real estate, you want to test if you're selling your house and you're in an area, or you think, I mean, in this area, most buyers, unless they're doing as is,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to do a radon test,
Yeah.
right? So it's better just to, like, go get a $10 kit from Home Depot and test your
Mm-hmm.
house and find out in advance and know what's going on and get it
Yeah.
fixed while you live there. Don't
That's a
wait
great,
until you go to close on a real estate deal and the buyer's like, oh, we did a radon test and now we're scared because there's radon, so we're going to back out of the deal.
right, right.
Which I've seen happen, where people have backed out of deals because they were afraid of the word radon.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just talking to you, I mean, and learning about it, it seems very scary. I mean, considering, the health risks involved, and it's almost like a silent killer, so to speak.
Yeah, it's like, a lot of people get all worried about, things like mold, and, that's super valid. If you have,
Yeah,
it's kind of like with the coronavirus. If you have like pre-existing, like asthma and things like that, then yeah,
sure.
mold can be really serious for you. But you can kind of smell mold.
Yeah,
You can
yeah,
smell
the
that mildew.
moisture
That
yeah.
gives people something tangible.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing tangible with radon.
Yeah.
So you're right. It is a silent killer, and
Wow.
most people aren't aware of it. That it's they're sleeping in their basement and it's radioactive. It's like,
Right.
you know it's the same as, like, leaving a nuclear plant every day, and you hear the ding 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 ding,
Yeah.
on the Geiger counter, but you have no idea.
Wow. Let me ask you, how does the process work? Take us through the process of how radon resolvers would remediate radon gas within a home. Like,
Sure.
I, yeah. Give us the process.
Okay, so let's say we'll do an example for we'll do a real estate example,
Sure.
because that's your business.
Yes, yes.
So I mean, we can use the house that I did for you recently. So that
Yeah.
house, I was contacted. I believe
Mm-hmm.
your seller contacted me, and
Mm-hmm.
they said, hey, we've got a radon for the home inspection. They did a radon test. Sometimes people do their own radon test, but either
Yeah.
way, they find out they have an issue. Then they call and they're like, hey, what can you do? How can we fix it? What do we need to do? And then I'm like, well, I like to come out in person. So I went out, did an in-person estimate, probably a day or two after the phone call, probably
Yeah.
the next day.
Yeah.
Um, and then I walk through the house with a homeowner. I take a look at the basement, and I look for things like sump pumps. I look for,
Mm-hmm.
like, cracks on the floor, like where the foundation wall meets the slab.
Sure.
I look to see, is there a crawl space, or is there
Mm-hmm.
no crawl space? Is there an addition on the basement?
Right.
As in, like, a new foundation, a separate foundation. So I
Mm-hmm.
look for these different things. And in that house, it was just a normal basement. There was nothing funny. No addition, no crawl space.
Right.
There was a tiny sump pump.
Mm-hmm.
But what we ended up doing is, well, let me back up. And then, we look at the inside, find the best place to go outside with the
Right.
system.
Right.
And then I walk around outside and find, okay, so these spots work to go from the inside to the outside. Now, which of those spots will be the best to hide the system aesthetically into the architecture of the home
Sure.
without it being like a big eyesore? Because I've seen other
Eyesore. Yeah.
companies, they put it like, right in the middle of the house and it looks
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
You want to have it in line with the trim or the downspout.
Mm-hmm.
So after after the in-person kind of evaluation, I would go back, type up a proposal, send it to the homeowner,
Mm-hmm.
and then we schedule a date to move forward and get it done. And so I would come out there probably sometime between 8, 9 in the morning.
Right.
If people have little kids, sometimes I'll come a little bit later just to be flexible with them.
Sure.
Or if they're retired, they're like, "Can you come at 6 in the morning?" And I'm like, yeah, I can be there at 6 in the morning if that works for you. You already read the whole newspaper.
Right.
So I get out there and then I'll either start from the outside or the inside. Basically, the first thing is, core a hole through the slab where you're going to have your main suction point.
Mm-hmm.
And then just to keep it simple, the system basically is a pipe that then goes through that suction point up to the outside where there'll be a fan, and then pipe from the fan that will go up and exhaust above the roof line.
Sure.
Sometimes you can do that through the garage and hide it inside, or sometimes in newer houses, they already have the pipe in place. You can see it if you have a newer house, like since 2005, usually.
Right.
It would come out of the sump pump or the basement and run straight
Mm-hmm.
through the house and up in the attic. In that situation, you're just putting a fan on it in the attic, and maybe you have to rework what the builder did in the bottom, but for the most part, the system's already there.
Sure.
Nice, because you can hide it inside. But
Right.
The whole goal of the radon system is to create suction and suck all that soil gas, not
Mm-hmm.
just radon, but soil gas,
Okay.
from beneath the slab up through the system and exhausted above the roof line.
Sure.
And if you have gravel, it's really easy to do that if there's
Mm-hmm.
gravel under the slab. But some older houses have like wet clay or sand,
Yeah.
or like I was saying, crawl spaces. So it can really vary, like what we need to do. Every job is completely different. Even when it's a brand new house,
Right.
it can be a challenge. I did one on Tuesday in Frederick.
Mm-hmm.
That was a brand new house that, I fully expected, it was a 15-year-old house, which is brand new as far as
Sure.
building
Young.
goes.
Very young.
And fully expected it to have a whole thing of gravel underneath of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I cored my hole in the ground for the suction pit for the system.
Sure.
Nothing but wet clay and then trash from the construction site.
Oh, wow.
So then I have to end up running a second suction point kind of over to where the sump pump was in the middle, just to ensure that we're getting the radon levels as low as humanly
possible. Yeah.
But that's it. And then, so the system, it's just like any other component in your house.
Mm-hmm.
Once it's put in, it runs 24/7, 365, and the
Sure.
fans last, minimum of 5 years, and then
Okay.
they just have to be replaced, every
That
5, 10, or 15
that was going to
years,
be my
depending on
next question. Do these systems require a lot of maintenance?
No maintenance. And it's funny, a lot of people are afraid to touch the systems.
Mm-hmm.
We put these stickers on it that say, radon reduction system, do not
Right.
touch, do not mess with. But
Right.
That's mostly for other contractors not to do something with it. Like, you don't want a cable guy coming. Like, let's say you have one of these houses that has a pipe by builder in it,
Sure.
the newer type that's
Mm-hmm.
already in place, that goes from the basement through the attic.
Right.
Sometimes a plumber, or not a plumber, but a cable guy might come in there and cut a hole in that and use that to run his cable up through the house.
Yeah, that hole is where it'll seep out.
Yes, and then he'll do that on each floor to run his line out to whatever room.
Yeah.
And then what's happened, then you can have radon leaking throughout the entire house. So that's why we put these stickers on it. But as far as maintenance, there's a little gauge on the pipe that shows you how much vacuum is in the system.
Okay.
And that gauge basically for the mitigator, it shows us, okay, well, how well is the fan performing
Mm,
in relation to how much pipe we ran and what the
sure.
subslab material is.
Okay.
So it's a gauge for us for performance, but for the
Hmm.
homeowner, it shows, okay, the fan is on or it's off, because if the gauge, it's a U-shaped gauge.
Right.
And so when you have suction, it goes like this,
Okay.
right? The oil
It's
in the gauge.
uneven.
So you
Yeah.
know it's on. If for some reason the fan stops running, or like, let's say a breaker trips, something like that, or somebody cut the pipe or messed it up,
Yeah.
siding got replaced and they messed it up, might have killed the fan, you would see that gauge sitting like this,
Leveled
and then you
off.
know it's not on.
Okay, okay. You know
Um,
that's a good point because I have some buyers that they just went under contract on a house. It had a radon remediation system in it, and I did see my client actually asked me. He said, "Okay, well, it's uneven. Does that mean it's working? Right? Like the gauge was uneven." And yeah, it was working, but that tells me if it's even or both sides of that U-shaped gauge are level, then it's not working properly. You need to call Peter.
yeah, call Peter. Yeah, yeah. If it's at zero, it's not running. It could be something as simple as when they installed it, the guy hardwired it into an outlet that was a GFI outlet,
Okay.
like you see in a bathroom, and
Yeah.
maybe that outlet just needs to be reset.
Okay.
It could be that simple sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but
But you'll
I'll
when you go in, you'll find out, right? You'll look at it to find out.
Yeah, and then some of this stuff I try to troubleshoot over the phone at the ease of the homeowner,
Okay.
just real quickly to see, free of charge. I'm like, hey, check the breaker box first.
Sure.
See if there's an outlet nearby that's got a reset button.
Mm-hmm.
Just simple things like that. And
Sure.
if that doesn't work, then I'll come out and take a look at it. But I
Okay.
will say, for the situation you just brought up, even if a house has a system in it,
Mm-hmm.
I would always do a radon test, because I've seen a lot of systems from the service side, not ones that I've put in, but ones that I've gone out to work on,
Mm-hmm.
that, you change the fan on it. The fan's been dead for 10 years. You change the fan on it, and then they do a retest, and it came back at like 26 picocuries.
Wow.
So the original system was never put in correctly. It was somebody
Right.
just rushing, trying to make a quick buck, and taking shortcuts and just
Yeah.
not doing what they're supposed to do. And then the homeowner, maybe they didn't want to run the test afterwards to see
Yeah.
what the new levels are, and they just procrastinated it and never did it, and then they
Yeah.
just assumed it worked.
Mm.
So it's always good to test, even if you have a system.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point. Well, Peter, I'm not going to hold you, man. I know you got some more systems to install, but
I
how
was
can
going to talk for
people
another 5 hours.
how can people reach you, my friend?
So you could go to my website, radonresolvers.com. You could call me at 301-200-2907. And then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram,
Yeah.
at Radon Resolvers.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
post a lot of content on there. I'm trying to keep up with Sam here. So I haven't started doing my neighborhood runs yet, but I will.
Oh, stop, man, stop. Well, yeah, man. I tell you, and I do enjoy your Instagram page because many times you'll put, can you find the radon system? I like that. I'm always and it definitely speaks to the point that you said about trying to keep it as camouflage as possible
Yeah.
so that it's not an eyesore.
I treat it every time like it's my house. Like,
Yeah,
okay, so if I'm living here, where can I be okay with that system? If it's going to be an outside system, where can we put it in where it doesn't screw up the appearance of the house?
right.
And that usually is like right next to downspouts or trim, or even tucked behind the chimney. You probably saw that
Yeah,
one the other day I
yeah,
had to
yeah,
fix.
yeah.
And I also like to put pictures on there of like dangerous systems that I come across that,
Mm-hmm.
they may work, they might work, but
Yeah.
chances are they could be making it worse,
Worse. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
or electrical hazards and things like that.
yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate your time, Peter, man. I really do. And yeah, we'll definitely be looking to work with you again with our clients as far as keeping their homes, and their families safe with this radon thing. And you take care, man. I appreciate your time.
All right, you too. Thanks a lot. It was great talking to you. Thanks for having
Same
me,
to
bud.
you, Peter. Same to you, man. Have a good one.
You too.
All right.